Welcome to the Wellness at Work podcast, brought to you by the Learning and Development Projects at Silberman School of Social Work, Hunter College. This is a series of conversations designed to inspire wellness in helping professionals. Our conversations will focus on understanding the importance of self-care, reducing trauma, and bringing to listeners new ideas and practices that promote wellness at work and in your professional life. Welcome to our show today. Welcome to Alchemy at the Silberman School of Social Work, a serialized podcast presentation inspired by the transformational work of Dr. Kwame Scruggs and guided in partnership with the vision and leadership of Dunia Garcia, director of the Cabrini Fellows Program at the Silberman School of Social Work, Hunter College. Here, myth becomes more than story. It becomes practice, process, and possibility. Welcome to our show today.
First, I'd like to introduce my colleagues. Kwame, can you introduce yourself?
Kwame Scruggs, founder and director of Alchemy, Inc. Is that good enough?
Talk a little bit about your work around Alchemy, and if you would.
Okay. My work around Alchemy, we're in our, I think, 22nd year. Founded in Akron, Ohio. We started off working with urban youth. And everything we do is through mythological stories and fairy tales. And the reason why we do that, when I was, and this is a long story. I'm going to make it short.
Okay.
The reason why I use myth, I just found years ago when I got introduced to myth through a book by Michael Meade, and he would tell a myth. He'd tell a myth and give his interpretation of the myth, and I just learned so much about my life through that. And I was working with youth and adults at the University of Akron at the time, Upward Bound. And I just found that if you tell somebody they're doing something quote unquote wrong, if you tell them that directly, they become defensive. But I found if you tell them through a myth, through a story, it removes you from the situation, and it allows you to look at the situation objectively. So I just started using myth with the youth and adults, and the shit worked. Okay. So I just kept using it, and hey, so
Long story short,
there you go.
Worked.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay. There you go.
So, Eric, can you talk a little bit about how you came to Alchemy, came to working with Kwame, because you're working with Kwame now.
Yes.
Can you give us a little update as to where you are and where you came from?
Well, how I actually came to meeting Kwame was I was invited to an informational session on the training program that he started at Silberman in 2025 last year. And it was just by happenstance that I was a grad student at Columbia, and I was in the clinical psychology program, and they have a separate unit under that called the Spirituality Mind-Body program within clinical psych. And one of my professors who knew Kwame's work, told me about it and suggested that I go, and I went to that informational session. And once I was there and I saw the work that he was doing, and I was like, this is something that definitely resonates with me, not necessarily for the work that I want to do, but for helping me to actually work more on me and possibly later on being able to share with others. So I went through the 50-hour training program with Kwame over 2025, where I met you and learned about your unique way of communicating and sharing your insights with others. And yeah, from that, I asked Kwame towards the end of that training program. I was like, hey, man, I would really like to sit in and learn more about how this is done. And he was, in his Kwame form, was like, hey, man, I got a place for you, and we'll pay you for that shit. His words, we'll pay you for that shit. which I wasn't looking for, but I was cool with. And so now I'm working with him at George Jackson Academy, a middle school in the East Village, with some really, really beautiful young souls over there. And also working with him at Silberman, where we're doing some training as well, with some community leaders there. So that's how I came to get involved with Kwame and how I met you, Jeff.
So for the folks at home, when Eric says my unique insights, he means something else, but I'll let you all wonder about what that meaning in fact is. And hey, Son, um, I'm so glad that you're going to be joining the conversation today. And can you tell us a little bit about how your perspective is? I mean, you've had not a lot of information about alchemy, and I've shared with you, and I talked about Kwame um, and alchemy, and how incredible I feel it is, and its impacts for, I think, for social service folks, including social workers, as well as folks who are involved in social services. I think it's one of these. It's seminal to how they can figure out how best to engage their people in a respectful way, as well as understanding how they come to their work, how they come to their lives. But Jesan, can you talk about a little bit about your background and how you've come to this conversation?
Sure. So, for the folks who are listening to this podcast, welcome. My name is Jesan Sorrells. I am the producer of the Wellness at Work podcast. You probably heard me on the first episode, the very first episode, where we were talking with Stacy Plickta around her work in the wellness space, in the self-care space. So I help out Jeff on the back end of the show, and I'm stepping in today around alchemy in order to provide an outside perspective, as Jeff said, of someone who is maybe new to Kwame's work, new to the work that Kwame and Eric and Dunia are doing. And providing that perspective, I've never gone through one of Kwame's classes. I've never engaged around this myth work. However, I am very familiar with myths, all the way from Joseph Campbell, who I did ripped off a whole bunch of stuff from him in art school way back in the day, 20 plus years ago now, all the way down to the kinds of work that I do in hosting my own show, which I'm not going to talk about here, but in hosting my own podcast and talking about the nature of how storytelling and narrative can impact society and structure. So I have a rough idea of what it is that Kwame and Eric are involved in Dunia, but I'm here today just as not as a foil, but as a voice of the crowd, right? To give the perspective of folks who may not have a perspective around myth, and the ways in which Kwame and Eric and Dunia are using that myth to move forward social services work.
Thank you. And I'm so glad that you're joining in. So, gentlemen, why are we?
Jeff,
Yeah,
excuse me, man.
yes,
I'm sorry. Can you
yeah.
say how you became involved?
Oh, okay. So, um, Dunia is going to be joining us a little bit later. Dunia and I work at the Silberman School of Social Work, and we have the same boss. We work for a fellow named Gary Mallon. And one day Gary said to me, I think you and Dunia could do some work together. Um, and when your boss says something like that, you sort of go down thinking yourself, oh my God, should I be updating my resume, or should be taking more medication? I don't know what to really make of that. But anyway, so I tapped. Dunia's office was literally across the floor from me, and I sort of waddled over there one day and knocked on her door, and we started to talk. And we, in fact, did collaborate on a curriculum development project together around working with people who are in social services and helping them be more effective in their jobs. But what was one day, Dunia just said to me out of the blue, she said, we're having this myth class, doing some workshops, and would you be interested in coming? And they're on Saturdays in the morning. And it's weird, I didn't hesitate or sort of whine about being having to get up on a Saturday morning and come back to the campus. So as I started to participate in the workshops, I sort of understood that there was they're about myth, but the depth and the intention and the development that happens when you are contemplating what goes on in the myth and how it relates to your life and your own development, it became essentially, I would take the workshop and then go home, lie on the bed and stare up in the ceiling and try to figure out what happened. And honestly, it took me a long time to really sort of understand that I was applying what I was trying to apply was really applying how to confront different aspects of my development and my personality. So I became intrigued by how much of a change process this was for me. I know I'm nattering on much longer than you guys did, but it's my show and I can do what I want. So, it was one of these things that I will say to you in my adult life that the agency, it has provided me with the agency to really change and grow and confront those aspects of your personality that required of my personality that required it. So I became, for lack of a better term, an acolyte. And for you folks at home, yeah, it's a little worrying, but just from my end, it's nothing that Kwame encourages. But I became a real sponsor for it to really come to Silberman. So my long-winded way of saying that, and then Eric and I met, and I guess Eric sort of alluded to how complex I can be in a group situation and how what goes on in class spurs me to really sort of examine myself as well as examining the information that's coming from the other people participating in the class. I I grow from also hearing and interacting with Eric and Kwame. So Eric would say something and I go, oh, I hadn't thought of that. And then I go, why didn't I think of that? And then I go, why do I feel like I needed to think of that? And then sort of, oh, interesting. So the wonderful thing about this process, well, one of the many wonderful things about this process is the different perspectives that are presented. And if you give them a chance to really sit with you, they really can really enhance how you understand who you are and better understand other folks. I mean, one of the great things that I dive into a lot in my own work is how to engage people who are very different from you. In other words, the importance of understanding and respecting otherness. And certainly alchemy is very much connected to that. So that next time you're going to want me to really be a little bit more brief, but here we are. So Kwame, thank you for reminding me about me. But let's return to my question. Why are we doing this podcast?
Jeff, it was your idea.
Yeah, but work with me here. Sometimes the talent needs to be more than just the talent.
Okay. But yeah, I guess here again, it was your idea, Jeff. but to help get the word out,
Right. Absolutely.
that let me say this. Uh,
Hmm.
I'm sitting here listening to you guys, and I'm not. I stumbled across this method, stumbled across it. Okay, so it's not like it's something that I sat around thinking about and came up with some genius idea. Just like in myth, I stumbled across it.
Hmm.
Here again, from just being introduced, from going through an African-based rites of passage. All right, that's what I was introduced to African spirituality and the work of Carl Jung and the work of Joseph Campbell. And then I, hey, Son, I don't know if I'm on the board of the Joseph Campbell Foundation.
Oh,
Yeah,
I did not know that.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah. I've been
that's
on the
interesting.
board for about 6, 7 years. But
Eric, does this sound like
He's
that
yeah, no, he's
conversation we
talking
had?
heavy. He's talking
Yep.
heavy
Yeah.
right
I
now.
know. Here we go.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
but here again, man, I'm not taking credit for this. When I here again, I read Michael Mead's book. Well, I read Iron John first, and they told the myth and Robert Bye gave his interpretation of the myth, but it was a long myth in just one book. With Mead's, he had about 7 different myths in his book, and so that first 2 myths that for Mead, it was about the father and son relationship. The next 2 was mother son relationship, and then he talked about
Mm.
initiation through desire, then initiation through sorrow. And initiation is a symbolic death and rebirth. But from reading that book, I read it 4.5 times, purchased and given that book to 180 people. Okay, I had their names in the back of the book who I've given it to. But man, I
Mm.
just learned so much about myself through a myth.
Mm.
And at the time, was working with youth and adults here again at Akron Youth Upward Bound program, and I just said I'm gonna start using this, with the youth. I remember walking at lunchtime, and I appeared in my window, and I said I'm gonna start using this with the youth and adults. And then here again, and then I started working with high school dropouts in Akron and Cleveland because I left Akron U, and then in charter schools and just with other adults. And everywhere I went, you know, here again, the shit worked. Okay.
That's
And
going
for
to be our
7 years,
marketing. That's going to be our marketing statement.
hey, that ain't a bad idea. Here again, we stumbled across it.
Yeah.
But here again, wow, it was the work of Michael Mead, and I just found that when you tell somebody through a myth, it removes you from that situation, and it just allows you to look at the situation objectively, and it's about coming to know yourself better. It's about coming to know yourself better. So yeah, Jeff, I don't know if that. So yeah, Jeff, we here to help get the word out, brother.
Eric, 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 help me here. Is there?
Well, I think that one of the challenges that I've noticed with this with Alchemy program is that it is very hard to
Mhm.
quantify and to describe. And one of the things that from my understanding that we're trying to do as well is to um, not just get the word out, but to also get what this does for people that can't be put into a number or into a quantitative study.
Mhm.
So, and I think that one of the really important aspects of alchemy and the work that Kwame does is that it's something that is, I don't want to use the word transformative because that's become like a Starbucks word now. Everybody's using it, but it becomes a very a revealing and insightful way for self-discovery. And in fact,
Mhm.
that's one of the things that we talked about last week as far as what is alchemy really about. And one of the things that Kwame had brought up is that basically alchemy is guiding self-discovery through myths and storytelling. And
Mhm.
that's what, if you put it into a nutshell, that's what it is. And one of the things that Jeff, to tack on to what you were saying, is that by being in this group setting and listening,
Mhm.
and Kwame brought this up too, the importance of listening to what other people are saying while this myth is working in you and you are thinking about the answers that you had, for me has been even more enlightening.
Mhm.
You know, and like Jeff also was saying, it's like listening to viewpoints that are different than yours or opinions that are different than yours, and wrestling with, do I agree with this? Do I not agree with this? Why don't I agree with this? Is it
Mhm.
something in me that's causing me to
Mhm.
not agree with it that I need to work through? And all of that stuff comes through this alchemy process, but it is hard to quantify. And I think
Mhm.
that by doing like these podcasts and talking with people and finding a way to um, to put it into a form that is digestible
Mhm.
for people, I think that this is something that can really be impactful and move beyond just the US, because I think that different cultures and different places and spaces outside of just the US, this is something that can be very helpful for them as well. So
Yeah.
Teacher.
Kwame.
Teacher.
For the folks at home, Kwame actually just raised his hand. Oh my goodness.
I'm a child at heart. I'm a child at heart. I'm a
Uh-huh.
child at heart.
Yeah.
Hey, they said to relive one's childhood is to relive twice, is to live twice. A
That's
couple
right.
things. A couple things. Thanks, Jeff and Eric. Um, wow, you talking about the word transformation. The irony of this is the meaning of alchemy is the ancient art of transformation.
Yeah.
So wow, that's interesting. And then Eric, you were talking about what the method does. It helps you to listen. So like I say, man, been doing well. Alchemy is about 22 years, but I've been using myth for probably about 30, maybe 20, about 28, 30. But I remember I was just thinking like, wow, the cool thing about this method is it gets people to talk, because when we do the myth and there's no and people are responding to the questions, there's no right or wrong answers, and so
Mhm.
that gets people to talk because there's no right or wrong answers.
Right.
And then I'm gonna say about year 22 or something, I'm like, wow, no, the cool thing about this method is it gets people to listen. It gets people to listen. Yes,
Kwame,
Jeff.
I would also say, though, that when you say that there's no right or wrong answers, I think that that's a really important point to emphasize. And the reason why is because certainly in terms of how I was raised and how I was educated, that there are right and wrong answers. And I think for me, I have leaned into that too much, and to sort of understand and to sort of broaden your understanding of the world. I think that when you say that there's no right or wrong answers, I think that's a really important part of the process.
Yes, thanks, Jeff. And here again now, it's according to what's our operational definition of right or wrong.
Right.
Okay, let me back up a little bit too. Here again about stumbling across the method. When I was first doing this here again, I was just using Michael Mead's work for about 7 years. I was using his myths, and I would always talk about his interpretation, but how I came upon the method itself is that when I started working with high school dropouts, and I had
Mm.
them for a whole year, and I'm like, wow, I'm gonna have to stretch this thing out. I'm gonna have to stretch this thing out. So that's how I just came up with, let's ask questions, okay? And that's how, here again, I just stumbled across it. Like Campbell says, when you follow your bliss, doors open where you thought there'd be no doors, okay? And that's another thing about alchemy. I'm trying to get people to recall their purpose in life, okay?
Mm.
And to follow their bliss,
Mm.
and to do what they think is best for them. Like the quote from the invitation: can you stand the accusation of betrayal without betraying your own soul?
Yeah.
So I'd like to step in here with a question
Please.
from the cheap seats, such as it were. And this is all well, this is all very fascinating to me for a wide variety of different reasons, personal, professional, social. But let me give a 50,000 foot. Let me ask a 50,000 foot question here, and Jeff, Kwame, Eric, anyone on the recording today on the audio can answer this question. In America, we have seen at an academic level the decline in the perception of the value around the humanities, right? So English, art, anything involving creativity, right? At the academic level, we've seen a decline in the value of that. And humanities departments have been closing since the 1980s. People don't study the classics anymore, at least not formally. More of it's going to an informal level. And of course, with the rise of the internet, we've seen an explosion of informal, non-academic disciplines around myth, around the classics, around what we would formally call English literature. The likelihood that an English literature major will get a job in a university is almost, at a PhD level, is almost zero now, or approaching zero. And so the question that I have is, after listening to all of this, does alchemy represent the future of humanities education in America? Is this where we need to go, not just with myth, but also with the arts, with the classics? Because there's value in all of these areas, right? Does this represent a template for how we can move forward into a world that desperately needs the insights from myth, and it needs the insights from the classics, but is not getting them at an academic level the way they used to, say, even 80 years ago in our country?
Great question. I was with I was associated with National Guild for Community Arts and Education for a few years. And in 2012, Alchemy was one of 12 programs to win the National Arts and Humanities Youth Program Award, nation's highest honor. Okay, we received it at the White House from First Lady Michelle Obama. I think this method is one of the ways, to use for humanities. I think, any art or music, because here again, that removes you from the situation. Mm-hmm. All right. And then, hey, Son, you're talking about that whole left brain, right brain. They say a 6-foot man drowned in 4 feet of water. Okay, that makes no sense. All right. They say if you give a person facts and ideas, you enlighten their minds. But if you tell them a story, you touch their souls. All right. So this is not for everybody. This is not for everybody. But wow. I'm saying this in all humility. In all humility. Wow. Hey, I'll just say that it's a pretty cool method. I'll just leave it at that. It's a pretty cool method.
Why? I'm curious about what you were going to say as opposed to what you said.
I'm extremely uncomfortable
with
I'm extremely uncomfortable saying I got the best toy on the block. I'm extremely uncomfortable. Okay, so I got a pretty nice toy for us to play with. Okay, but there's plenty of people with nice toys. Okay, all I can do is speak to mine and see the impact. Okay, that mine has had on others. All right, so and here again, man, I'm uncomfortable taking credit for it. But here again, the shit works. Okay. Hey,
There
hey,
it goes.
hey. It's three things that I always say. Three things that I always say about the method. Three things I've always said about it. And I knew from day one. I have some anecdotal stories, that just told me, man, this myth is the ticket. This myth is the ticket. But the three things I always tell people: it's unique, it's engaging, and most importantly, it works. Okay. Yeah. So,
Eric, do you have a perspective on what Hassan asked? What do you think?
I think that uh, okay, I give you an example from a class that I took at Columbia, and it was a psychology class. But the professor is he incorporates spiritual practices in his clinical psych work, and he teaches from a way that incorporates things like meditation, contemplative practices, Jungian practices, all that kind of stuff. And I was his TA, and one of the most challenging things that me and this professor had to work through was you have students who um, are very academically focused on, I need to get the A because that's what I've been told I need to get. So tell me how to get the A.
Mhm.
But in this class, it was more about exposing you to different ways of thinking about self-discovery and how you can contribute to others through your work, whatever that work is, whether it's psychology, social work, entrepreneurship, or whatever. But that concrete mindset of school is about achieving a certain thing was very hard to break through, especially when you have students who believe that they were the elite. So to get to your question, um, once, and I believe Alchemy does this as well in a way, is having them to go through a process, because this class was a very experiential process, having them to go through a process where they were constantly being forced to break down the concreteness of, I need to achieve something, to what is this class trying to do within me. I was able to see in their reflection papers and their midterms and their final exams how these students were able to go back to different traumas in their childhood. They were able to go through, like, I once thought this way, now I'm thinking this way, or I don't know why this is coming up, and all this other stuff started coming up because they were forced to get out of the concrete achievement mentality. And I was able to see, and it didn't work for everybody. Just like for me, I don't believe alchemy is something that's going to work for everybody, because you have to have a certain willingness and openness in order to allow this work to happen. And everybody, either they don't have it or they're not at that point in their lives where they're open to it. This is just my opinion, not Kwame's. But I do believe that we are losing a lot of it in academia. And one other thing I'll say is about this is I used to work in the wine industry, and I moved. I dealt with very wealthy people who were private collectors, and what I noticed about them was, even though they were very wealthy and elite, wine for them was not about the money or the achievement. It was about the appreciation of what that wine represented, how the grapes were grown, the people who picked the grapes. They wanted to smell and to taste. And so it was not a mental thing, but it was almost a spiritual thing of, I'm collecting this thing as an experience. I'm drinking this with people who I want to experience something with. Now, and I'll close with this. One of the things that I think is missing, especially in communities who don't navigate in that world, is that a lot of that world, from my personal experiences, they don't teach it in school, but at home, they're teaching their kids philosophy, read the philosophers, appreciation for things like art, for wine, for experiences, going on vacations, taking 6 months on my yacht to go out to some fishing village and just experience that. And so you'll see that in certain communities, but they don't talk about it. So what I think that one of the things that Kwame does through it, I think that Alchemy does, and Kwame is leading this, is that enables people who have a concrete I need to achieve to kind of break free of that and to really experience something, to realize that there is wealth in the experience rather than just trying to achieve what somebody says I need to achieve. But it's hard to communicate, but I think that's one of the things that Kwame's work does, and I see that how it's helpful even in academia to really help young people or people in general to open up to those different ways of viewing their life and their past.
Eric, thanks. And you sparked something else. And you said achieve, like achieve what? Okay.
Mhm.
Joseph Campbell said we spend so much time, uh, putting our ladder up against the wall of success, only to find out we had our ladder up against the wrong wall. All right, and here again, that's what alchemy is about. It's about having you really, ask yourself the serious questions. Um, and what is it that you're chasing? What you hunting for, and why are you hunting for it? All right, and quit bullshitting yourself. Okay, yeah, take that mask off and be who you meant to be. And be
But
and be
Kwame,
and
to
be and be comfortable in who you are. Stop a Well, hey, I'm one for always apologizing, but hey, I'm still learning. But yeah, be more comfortable in who you are. All right. So
but Kwame and Kwame, there's I because I've done research on like this concept of spiritual quest.
Mm.
Like there's actually research, and a lot of it came out of research out of UCLA that actually studied students in college, and spirituality is different than religiosity.
oh
Those are
yeah,
two
oh
different
yeah,
things.
yes,
But they actually did a 10-year study on spiritual quest in young adults as well as in faculty members, and they found in regards to achievement of the majority of students were so burnt out and they were having mental health issues because they were approaching, I need to achieve
yeah,
some expectation that was placed upon me, while at the
Mm.
same time, there was something within them that was like, there has to be more
Mhm.
than what I'm chasing.
Mhm.
But they did not have the tools or the understanding. How can I get out of this and actually have space to search for whatever this unknown thing is that I feel is pulling me in a direction, and they were stuck in, I don't know how to get out of it, but I just got to keep achieving. I got to keep joining clubs. I got to keep getting the A. I got to keep going to these meetings in order to get the job, to get the promotion, to get the, and then it just becomes a cycle of,
yeah,
and they found it in professors as well, where it's like I'm just
yeah,
fighting to get tenure
Mhm.
and
yeah,
I have no space to explore this sense of purpose calling me forward. So,
yeah. Hey, here again, thanks for that. And hey, man, this is a generalization. They talk about, they don't know the way out. We know the way out. We know the way out. Okay. It's just difficult. It's just difficult because we painted ourselves into a corner. All right. And here again, uh, one of my favorite quotes: "The space for what you want is filled already with what you settle for instead." We know the way out.
Um, so I agree. My hesitation is the programming about getting A's, achieving, in part is was was instilled in me, um, because my parents didn't want me to suffer, generally speaking, and particularly as a black
mhm.
man. They thought it was key to that. So the mask that you referred to was also part of that, to make sure to sort of move past whatever sort of um, combat was um, potentially offered for you or for me, and keep moving forward. And what I think when you say what's difficult, the difficult part about it is this is what you know, as opposed to going to what your instinct says is better, but is that same is at the same time it's less safe.
Yeah.
It's less assured.
Yeah. That's yeah. that's that's the whole key.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the whole key. So what I lived that life for 38 years, 40 some years. So I'm speaking from experience, and I'm still, caught in it. All
Yeah.
right. So I'm yeah. Yeah, so while I'm sitting here talking all this shit, yeah, I'm still, like like Dunia this morning. I still have to attend meetings at the last minute, okay, to pay the bill. So no, I get it. I get it. I'm just all I'm saying is let's stop kidding ourselves. We know the way out. It's just difficult. It's just difficult because there's going to be sacrifices that are going to have to be made. And at what point? At what point do you say, "Hey, life is short, and I'm going to go live it. Stop letting life live you." So no, I definitely get it. I understand it. I definitely understand it. I'm just saying, look deeper into yourself, and at what point do you want to say, "Hey, this is enough"?
So before we go any further, Dunia Garcia has joined us, and Dunia is my colleague. She's the director of the Cabrini Fellows Program,
And the
she's
reason we're here.
she's the yes, thank you. I wonder whose show this is really. Um,
It
she,
don't matter who moves the laws. What matters is that the laws get moved.
Laws get moved.
I, in my head, understood that there was going to be some little snippet of something you had ready for that. Okay, great. Dunia, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for bringing Mr. Scruggs to Silberman and to my life, actually, which is more important. Dunia, you want to talk a little bit about how you came to um, Kwame and what you feel alchemy has to offer?
Sure. Thank you, everyone, and good morning. And sorry for the delay in joining in. I feel terrible that I've missed what I think has been great conversation already.
Oh, Dunia, you see these characters, right? Okay.
Wow. So humbled by the introduction, and also to get to answering the question, I got the opportunity to meet Kwame um, when I was in my doctoral study at Rutgers University, where I was completing my doctorate in social work. I'm a social worker by trade. Um, and I think where I differ from many social workers, I've always been interested in doing individual work. But growing up in the Bronx in the 80s, and for anyone that knows the Bronx, it's often associated with the burned down Bronx. Um, I saw nothing but rubble, trash, abandonment in my community. And yeah, I wanted to do that individual work, but what was really calling me as I thought about doing my master's was community change. And so I became a community organizer. And it sort of became foundational to everything that I do is how do I maximize change and capacity. Um, and so I did that work for a bit, and I sort of had this hidden love that I wanted to explore, which was to teach. And I had heard, although later on I found out that there are other ways, that the only way that I could teach was if I got a doctoral degree. And that was a huge internal battle that I had to overcome. But when I did, I ended up at Rutgers, and I don't regret it for many reasons, but mostly because I got an opportunity to meet Kwame and some really cool people along the way. Okay, so going back to Kwame, um, to kind of uh, join a conversation, which I missed some of the topic, so it might be off. I actually think storytelling is for everyone. And so I had no idea who this person that was pacing back and forth
Mhm.
um, in the classroom was. I thought that they were perhaps the assistant of the person that was going to teach the course, and they were waiting and were pacing. Um, I myself, this was my second year in the doctoral program. I was a nervous wreck. So the person that I kept seeing pacing was a manifestation of what I was feeling internally.
Mhm.
Um, and then to my surprise, the person identifies themselves actually as Kwame, but the lead, the program director at that time did call him Dr. Kwame Scruggs, and Kwame had a reaction to that. And I said, whoa, what is going on here? Everything about Kwame defied what I would have imagined um, in someone of his knowledge and um, I mean, I didn't know him actually at that time, but I said, okay, this is different. This is interesting. And for some reason, there were some really immediate connections that I made. And I do want to kind of highlight the sort of if we talk about the collective unconscious, how that was part of something bigger than me. There was something else talking there. It wasn't, I don't know this person, but yet I felt like a deep connection. Then Kwame started talking about who he is, where he comes from, and I just said, "Holy smokes! I've never met someone that articulated what I feel so well." And I think that what really spoke to me about Kwame, and this is Kwame the person, it's not just his humility, it's not just um, the simplicity in the communication, um, but it's real. It
Mm.
wasn't it wasn't polished with beautiful big words, although of course he has them. And it wasn't meant to really, he wasn't asking for permission. He wasn't really asking
Mm.
anyone to like or dislike. It was just facts. And I became increasingly um, interested in this person that was going to give this course. Okay, to get to the myth, though, nothing could have prepared me for that because what Kwame decided to do was assign us the story of Percival. And I think I forget the book right now, but we had to read this book. It's a very quick read. I read this book and I said, okay, I don't know what this means. I don't know where this is going. Nothing could have prepared me for that. Because what I did get to experience was the telling of a myth, and it
Mm.
blew my mind.
Mm.
There were multiple things that happened for me on a very deep and personal level. To this day, I have my notebook, I have my immediate response to parts of the story. Um, I was able to truly speak to myself in a way that I didn't even know that I had a dormant voice. I mean, I'm a quiet person by nature. I have a lot of thoughts zooming through my mind all day long. But this was a different kind of conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there was something very profound and again, grounding it on this world real about what was happening to me. And I couldn't deny it. And I didn't know what to do with it. Um, and I had to experience it. So what's curious about it is that I'm in a room with 16 other people, and some people are also deeply moved, others are not.
Is this at Rutgers?
This is still at Rutgers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the reason that's important is because immediately I notice, oh, some people cannot talk to themselves. They are not willing to do it. And I looked at it as if I don't do it now, this may never come my way again.
Mm.
And so I think that my approach to what was being asked of me allowed me to benefit greatly from the method. And so I have made it kind of my mission, my purpose, in whatever small way or big way that I can to share this with anyone that will listen. Invite everyone to have a conversation with themselves through something that we all love, I think, which is a good story, which is something that is, I don't know, just the most human thing that we can do is communicate through an experience, through a story.
Mm-hmm.
And welcome people in not, I mean, honestly, I think that it is a question about how honest can you be with yourself. It's inviting people to just sit with that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just something that I think we are all eager to do. The story is incomplete. We don't know what we need to complete it. I feel like this is the reminder that we have answers. And this is what allows us to complete the story. So sorry, I went, many places, but that's my
For the
introduction.
folks at home, both Kwame and Dunia have this interesting thing where they go on this really intense thought, and then sorry, and it's just like too late. You've already got our attention, so don't apologize. Thank you so much for sharing that, Dunia. Kwame, I see you have something you want to add.
Yes, here again, Dunia, thanks. And this was like 8 years ago or something. And
Yeah.
I want to credit Michael Lasala, okay, who I met I was doing a presentation at Jung, uh, Jung Institute in New York on East 39th. And that's how met Michael. And then Michael brought me to Rutgers. But Dunya, you had mentioned how some people were into it and others weren't. Um, and wow, I don't even remember pacing back and forth. Okay, I don't even remember pacing
With a
back and forth.
towel
Wow. Okay. No. Oh no.
in
I
hand.
have a problem with that. And I don't remember. I don't remember. The sweating in the towel. But for the audience, hey, I'm insecure. I'm insecure, and I'm really insecure, and the social anxiety piece, and so I can't hide it because I sweat. So I keep a towel with me, not a hanky, a towel, and so I don't even remember that, Dunya. Um, but you're talking about here again, some people getting it and some people not, or into it and some people not. The one thing about the method, it's up to you how deep down the rabbit hole you want to go. It's like you want, like the Matrix. You want the red pill or you want the blue pill. Which one you want? It's the bird is in your hand. Okay. Here again, it's up to you. It's like when you go to the dentist, and you have decay, and that decay is down in the root. Okay, so if you have the dentist and you just stay on the surface, dentist stay on the surface, it's not going to be any pain, but they're not going to get the root. They're not going to get to the root of the problem. All right, and the deeper down the dentist goes, it's going to be more pain, but you're going to get to the root of the problem. All right, so And then like here again in the method, you know, you had the journals and you writing down your responses, and like we tell the students, and you know, for those you know, as far as alchemy, we would have the youth 6th grade to 12th when we first started. So we have them 7 years, and we doing these myths, and they're writing down their responses, and we you know, these youth now are 30, 31, 30 years old, and our second group, they're about 26 years old now, the ones we start with 6th grade. But anyway, you know, they write down the responses as with the adults now, and it's up to you, okay? You can lie to us, but you can't lie to yourself, all right? And here again, alchemy is about getting to know who you are and becoming comfortable in who you are so that you can move forward. And it's about, you know, dealing with our wounds. And it's in our wounds that we find our blessings.
Can I add something to that?
Please.
Despite the fact that, you know, what I identify as people getting into it and others are not, it's a reflection of me. I am very concrete. I have found. I do not allow myself to become, you know, deeply engaged in things. And so what I do is I put a very immediate, you know, very concrete, uh, you know, I'm ready to answer. It kind of goes back to this idea that, you know, you have to be ready and you have to be top of your game. And there is a reward out there if you can answer something right, quote unquote, right. Um, Man, it's like just in the questions and in the answer, it just starts taking that away. It just starts breaking all these ideas away. But what I have really come to appreciate, because we all had to answer and we all had to share, um, is that it really allows you to be honest about yourself through in reflection to others. And so when I heard somebody go deeply into something, I said, wow, I can go there. I wouldn't know to go there. My mind is a force field. I will not, you know, give you more or less. I want to give you exactly the right, quote unquote, right answer. So it was so important for me to see people just be so candid. I was like, how do you become so like loose with your thoughts and your answers? Wait a minute. And then some people actually read what they wrote, you know, they read what they wrote, and it's this elaborate response. And I said, I wrote 3 words because I couldn't um I couldn't put it neatly in a sentence, let alone a paragraph. And that is really deep. And it just, again, it's always so instructive. And similarly, when I hear someone provide a concrete answer and something that is basic, I needed to hear that too. Because I think what it often shows me is that this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that community. I'm looking for us to come up with something. I don't have the answers, God forbid, don't look to me. I'm looking at us as in that unique element that you bring to the table. But I wouldn't have been able to articulate that if I had not gone through the method. That I deeply value whatever you can bring to the table, always. It is not a requirement for me that you are a superstar. But this was more cemented in this practice because it exemplifies that, you know, the uniqueness of this journey, this knowledge of self starts wherever you start. And so I think that sort of truthfully what it has done, it has allowed me to settle into my own beliefs and my understanding of myself, because I understand why approach the work in a particular way, or why certain things matter more than others. Because it showed me that I just the same way I just value somebody's input, maybe somebody values my input. In other words, everyone's voice matters. And I think I'm way more comfortable. This continues to be true, you know, being behind the scenes. That's really where I like it. But I think it's okay. And some days I have to go front and center, and other days I'll be in the back where I like. But it's allowed me to have bandwidth, um, and more importantly, to identify, wow, that really comes easy for me, but this, oh man, this I struggle with. But I just heard you articulate it, and it's given me permission to articulate my own thoughts. It's just been deeply transformative in my life. If you would have only met me 8 years ago, 7 years ago, 6 years ago, I feel like this growth, um, for me on a personal level, has been happening in spurts, but it's the person that's becoming more comfortable with me is me. And that has come by way of, my exposure to alchemy and the method and the training and really providing it for others. I get the reward of also, um, being there for myself, if that makes any sense.
Hey, thanks, Dunia. We do the myth while the myth does us.
That sounds familiar. One of the things that I hear you all saying in different ways is you're exploring different aspects or other aspects of your humanity, and also getting to experience people exploring aspects of their humanity at the same time, which is really very moving. So Kwame, I think this would be a great place for you to take us through a myth. What do you think?
All right,
That was the question. Do it.
Okay. Okay. And I'm gonna take you through a portion of a myth.
Yes.
Take you through a portion of a myth. Okay, so I'm gonna tell a portion of a myth, and so this myth is called the Two Brothers. All right.
Okay, hang on. So you're going to take us through a prompt, and do you want us? You're going to ask us to?
Yeah, I'm just going to ask you what resonated with you in this portion of the myth, and ask you a couple questions for this portion of the myth. All right. Can you hear my drum?
Yes.
You can hear it good.
Yes.
Okay. Normally we do that golden age before, but we don't have time, so we're not going to do the golden age, all right? We're not going to do the golden age. But I just want to say a couple quotes on myths. Myths are stories that have never been, but will always be. Myths are lies which tell the truth. Myths are false on the outside, but true on the inside. Myths are not just for putting children to sleep, but for waking adults up. All right, so here we go. This is an African myth called the Two Brothers. So once upon a time, in an African village on a farm near a river, there lived a man, his wife, and their two sons. Every day, the two boys, they asked their father for permission to go and swim in the river when the sun got very hot. Well, at the river, the younger brother often took his father's canoe and went far out to the deepest part of the river. One day, like today, he went out farther out than usual. Finally, he got to a spot where there were many large rocks, and on top of one of the rocks, he found a comb. Now, this comb was quite ornately decorated. So the boy decided to take the comb home with him. He took the comb to the shore of the river, but he did not tell his older brother what he had found. Now, while the boy was asleep that night, a beautiful woman appeared to him in a dream and asked for the comb. But well, was it a dream, or did she really appear in person? We don't really know. She told him that while she was combing her hair that morning, she had accidentally left it on the rock. She promised to give him anything he wanted if only he would permit her to take the comb back to the river. And I'm going to stop right there. And you just write down what resonated with you in that small portion of the myth. And as always, there's no right or wrong answers. It is merely for discussion's sake. I wanted to give tribute to what really got me started in all this is reading the autobiography of Malcolm X. And when I was, I'm 60, I'll be 68 in next month. And when I was young, Malcolm, everything I was told about Malcolm was negative. And then I read an autobiography of Malcolm X when I was like 34, and I realized that they lied to me. And I said, if they lied to me about Malcolm, they lied to me about other things. And then I started reading our history. And from reading our history, that led me to reading The Miseducation of the Negro by Carter G. Woodson. And that led me to the psychology of people of color. Mm. And which led me to going through an African-based rites of passage where I was introduced to, here again, the work of Carl Jung and Joseph Campbell. But all that is from reading Malcolm. So yeah, I just want to pay tribute to Malcolm and my ancestors. Wow, I normally start off everything by thanking the Creator and the ancestors for the abundance of blessings they have bestowed upon me, so I apologize for not doing that. So hey, so there we go. So Jeff, what resonated with you? No right or wrong answers.
Coveting. Covetous. Coveting.
Okay.
Coveting. Right. Reaching for things that may not belong to me.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Hey, Sam, what resonated? No right or wrong answers.
Several things resonated with me through that. Primarily, I guess, fathers and sons. The nature of passing along something, a message, a connection, passing along a piece of history, more passively than actively. Because the father is only active for until the comb is found, and then he is removed, and now it goes on to the son. Now the son has to deal with sex and fertility and connection and engagement, and he has to deal with it on his own without the father being there.
Okay. Thanks, Hassan. Here again, no right or wrong answers. Dunia, what resonated?
I think that what kind of drew me to the story was the thought of going further into the river and then coming across something, finding something. I can't swim, so I always get nervous with anything that has water. But I get the sense that I'm going to be okay because I'm with my dad.
Okay, in the myth, that's interesting, because in the myth, he wasn't with his dad.
No. Yeah. Yeah, that's the image that I got, that I went off
Okay.
with yeah.
Okay.
And then the off chance of finding something valuable.
Okay. Thank you. Eric, what resonated?
Um, that there's a weight to keeping secrets, and that um, it's just the image of him picking up a comb and feeling that weight that comes along with keeping secrets, and um, how that's something that I have to recognize, that what secrets I keep is a choice, and but there's also weight that comes with that, and I need to be very cognizant of who I'm allowing to share their secrets with me, and to share the secrets of others with me, because it's not free.
Wow. Hey, thank you. I was trying to think of a myth last night to do, and it was either this. It was this. I was thinking about four different myths, but in the other myth, I was thinking about the king's ears, and it's talking about keeping secrets. Okay, so like this is just an example. Uh, so the first question I have, uh, ooh, first comment I have. Every day they ask for permission to go swimming. All right. Um, so here's my question: is there anything you ask for every day? Is there anything that you ask for every day?
As opposed to taking.
However you want to answer it, brother. Whatever comes to your mind.
Hmm.
So I'll jump in here just for the
Please.
sake of myself here. Um, every day I think not I think I ask, because I have a, spiritual, to Eric's point, spiritual and religious practice that I engage in every day. Um, Part of my Christian walk, and so I ask for, from God, um, protection. I ask for guidance. I ask for wisdom, not just for myself, but also for my family. I ask for the removal of the things that would cause me to stumble. So pride being the biggest one, but then also all the other fruits that fall from that tree. Um, and um, I ask for protection for my family, because if I'm, not there, I can't do that, and I can't be everywhere all at once. They're all over the place, right? So those are the things that I ask for usually, typically, to start my day.
Mm. Thank you, Hassan. Um, and then for the people who listen, that they should be, answering these questions
Right.
as well. Uh, I know time is, getting ready to come to a close here. Um,
You have time. Go ahead.
okay. I just thinking maybe another question, here is there write down the first thing that comes to your mind on this one. Is there anything you should be asking for?
Oh, God. This is why I spend
No,
time.
no, the hell with that. What should you be asking for? What should you be asking for? Not is there something you should be asking for? What should you be asking for? Or what do you want to ask for? Yeah, let's go with that. What do you want to ask for? And now, with the questions, like with the youth, because we have for 7 years, they don't get a chance to, not answer the questions. All
Mhm.
right. And as you know, we are constantly saying what's said in the circle stays in the circle. And in my 20 years working with youth, only one time did something leave that circle. Only one time, to my knowledge. And one of the youth shared something with one of the youth that used to be in alchemy. and it got out, and it got back to him, and it was, yeah, that was not cool. So yeah, like and so let's say in 7 years they're asked 400 questions. Let's say they asked 400 questions over a 7 year period. Um, Maybe two of those 400 questions they do not have to answer in that circle because it's so deep of a question. All right, but we also tell them, as we tell the adults, even if you do not respond in the group setting, at least write it down. At least write your response down so that way it's acknowledged by your psyche, okay, by your soul. Like Eric was saying, it's difficult carrying secrets. Michael Meade said it's two sides of a secret. One side, we all got family secrets. We all got family secrets. All right, things that we will not share. But he said the second side of the secret is that gift that we came to this world with. All right, like when we're young as boys, we think we can be Superman, or a hero,
Yeah.
and we walk around with the pillowcases around our neck like it's capes, because wow, as a child we really believe we had a secret that we know we can be somebody, and then the world tells us that we cannot. And then at that point you're scared you're frightened to share that secret part of you that you can be great. And so alchemy is about recalling that you can be somebody, that secret, that you are somebody.
Kwame, can you repeat that last question?
um
Mm.
what should you be asking? What should you be asking?
Yikes.
And I would say what's said here stays here, but it's in the cloud.
It's a
So
podcast, a promotional podcast, I might add. But I
yes.
think I think I think the question I is, am I? It's kind of a rhetorical question. Am I on the path that will lead to more discovery?
Hmm.
That's the question I have to ask myself. And I would say it's a yes and no answer, but a more no than yes.
Hmm. Thanks, Jeff. Hey, Son, did you write something down? Hey, Son, and you don't have to share it. You don't have to share it if you're. Did you write something down though?
Yes, he does. He has to share it. I shared
Okay. There,
The producer,
there's
the
there,
producer's in
there's
a
that
pinch.
personality flaw again. Not flaw, man. Wow, that was being sarcastic because it is not a flaw in the least bit. I'm sorry, Jeff. I love your sarcasm, man. Love it, brother. Hey, Son, I'm sorry, man. What did you say, brother?
You didn't need to apologize. Care about it anyway.
So something that I'm working on this year, even outside of just the general work that I do, and something that I do need to ask for, or that I want to ask for every day,
Mm,
is more genuine sincerity and
mm.
less ironic detachment.
Ooh, ouch. Ironic.
Could
Can
you
you say?
could you expound on that?
Yeah,
Ironic
man. Yeah,
detachment?
yeah.
Sure.
I,
Yeah.
I, I definitely understand the sincerity. I definitely understand that, and you ain't got to worry. You're gonna get that from me, okay? But the ironic detachment, man. What's your operational definition of that, man? That is cool, man. I'm glad I thought of that.
You may use it. Go ahead.
Oh,
Take
don't
it.
worry, brother.
Take
And I will
it.
give
Go
you
for
full credit. Wow, man. Ironic
Ironic
detachment. Yeah, man. Say
detachment.
more about that.
So
Ironic detachment. Oh.
so I am at the tail end of a generation that sharpened ironic detachment took it from first a shield to protect us from the things as a generation. Dunia talks a little bit about this because she's probably in the middle or the older end of that generation that I'm in. We used it as a shield to protect ourselves from the genuine societal collapse and cultural collapse we saw around us, because it was the only way to deal with being a latchkey kid or being a product of divorce. or having our dreams. You talked about being a superhero with a cape, having that cape ripped away from us and being pushed into reality way too early. As we have gotten older, as I have gotten older, I'm going to make this personal about myself. As I have gotten older, I have noticed that ironic detachment is an anchor, and it holds you down. And what the generations who have come after us need from us as leaders, they need from us as fathers and mothers, they need from us as examples in society and culture. They need sincerity. They need us to sincerely believe that things can be better. They need us to sincerely believe in our heroes. They need us to sincerely believe in our myths, because ironic detachment only deconstructs the myth. It can only serve to tear down. It cannot serve to build up. And so, if I want people to do something else, I have to demand of it myself first before I can ask for others.
Would you say
So,
that the detachment sort of gives the air or the surface of sophistication?
it does, and it's not sophisticated. That's the thing that I've come to
Right.
understand.
Right.
And I'm exploring this, like I said, in a lot of different areas in my own life and in my own in my own production, my own creation that I am doing. But it's also something that, at a very personal level, I'm letting go of. So I need to ask to let go of more of that.
Wow.
The
Wow.
other thing about it also is that it's sort of a knowingness, right? A false knowing. I know better because I can be so ironic.
I can be
Um,
above it all.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Hey, Hassan, thanks so much. Thanks so much for this. You do, Jeff. But wow, two things leading to the method. Okay. You talking about before you can ask others to do it, you got to do it yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, and wow, that's one of the things about the method. Before healing others, heal thyself. Okay, something I learned in the rites. You can't teach somebody something you yourself do not know, and you cannot lead them somewhere where you yourself are unwilling to go. All right, so this method is about getting to know yourself better so that you can work with others better. Then you also said, Mao, just talking about the ironic detachment. Another cool thing about this method is when everybody in that circle has something to say. All right, so wow, we don't really know who the teacher is. Everybody in that circle is teaching. Okay, so that's why it's so important to listen, with the method, because you'll hear something that you don't know. And in life, it's just so much about making decisions. And generally speaking, the more information we have on the subject, the better decision we're going to make. And through these myths, you're hearing everybody hearing the same myth at the same time by the same person, but everybody got different, perspectives of it. And here again, that's why it's no right or wrong answer. And it's about listening to what other people have to say. So how can you learn and you use that for yourself. So
Did you?
this is so cool. Here again, the shit works.
Oh, so Dunia, I was going to mention that this is his um, public relations meme. The shit works.
Okay. Yeah. So Dunya, what do you if you're comfortable, what do you need to ask for?
So that's like a million-dollar question for me, because I tend to be a person that gives, not a person that asks. And so I would imagine that what I can ask for is to remove that. Almost, it's interesting because you started by ask for permission, and I said that's all I've ever done. It's like ask for permission, ask for permission.
Mm.
And so for me, it would be, dare I get rid of asking for permission, which in there is a huge sense or need for approval. Please say that this is okay before I can go ahead and do that, which I know deeply in me is correct. And I find that the times that I feel most whole with myself is when I just do. And I try to live a life that allows me to cut a lot of the other stuff out, but um, I'm hardwired to,
Ask
you
for
know,
it.
to be submissive and ask first. You first, me second, third, fourth, fifth. And actually, if I'm even being more honest, I enjoy it, which is something that I enjoy helping. I enjoy putting you first. I literally love it. So I don't see anything wrong with it, except that there's a voice in my head that says, yeah, but what do you want?
Mhm.
And so that's a deep question for me, and I'm stuck in my thought process about it. I wouldn't
So,
even know what am I asking for? I don't know.
Mm.
so when you said submissive, I see, I hear caretaking. I don't hear submission.
This is
Um,
true, but I know
submissive.
me.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, this is part of my, it's interesting because I've said this in other spaces, but I was raised to be a mother and a wife. Um,
Mm.
and so I feel that, and I actually have a reaction to people that call me a nurturer. And I had to sit with, why do people see me that way? I'm not that way, but I am. And so it's like I am in an interesting state of, but I love that. That's not being a nurturer. That's just who I am. Yeah. So there is no contradiction. Um, but I guess the reason I say submissive is because I am willing to shelve anything and everything that I have to do um, for me to better serve somebody else, almost at my own cost. And part of that is I want to. The less explored part is I have to.
Mm.
I have to put myself second. And so I think that that's something that I think a year ago you would have asked me this. I would have said my voice. No, I found that. I think I know where I am now. But this is a year ago. There's been a progression of sorts, and I fully credit alchemy for that.
Mm.
It happened before I even understood what was happening to me. Um, and so I think that as I'm getting closer to understanding that element, um, then I think I'll be better suited to answer exactly what is it that I'm looking for.
Mm.
Thank you, Dunia. Thank you.
Okay.
Eric, what do you need to ask for, brother?
Um, when you said that, the question was a little bit different that I asked myself was what do I need to ask? Um,
Mm.
and
Mm.
Wow, dig that.
the the question that came and keeps coming is um, why not me? And this goes back to, I mean, this goes to insecurities, um, navigating the spaces. Jeff kind of alluded to it, being raised as a Black male and you're in spaces where I have found myself like, why am I at this table? Or why am I in this space? I'm the only one who looks like me, or why I'm in this relationship, or why does this person want to,
Mm.
and asking, which is something I know that I need to ask myself more, is why not me?
Mm.
And something somebody actually told me yesterday, actually a guy of uh, a lighter hue, was telling me that he said, any room that you are in or space that you were in, you belong in. If you didn't belong there, you wouldn't be there. And and so that's a question I need to keep asking myself more of, to actually deal with those insecurities and those, how much more do I need to achieve to prove that I belong
Yeah.
or that I'm worthy, because I was raised, and I understand it, I get it. You need to be being the best is not enough. You have to be more than the best just to be on the same level. So it's constantly achieving, and asking, okay, what else do I need to do to be accepted, that I'm worth being in this rooms? And like I said, I understand it. But that whole thing of why not me? And it goes to the first question you asked, which I didn't answer, was what do I ask every day?
Mm.
And it is, I ask God pretty much every day to help me to navigate this journey. Because a lot of times I feel lost, like I don't know, like what's going on, or am I on the? I think Jeff kind of said it too, like am I on the right path? Where is this? And it's, God help me to navigate this journey, because I don't know what's what. But then asking myself, why not me? I belong here, and that's something I have to continue to work on. And the last thing I'll say is, for me, this whole thing, like Hassan, did I pronounce that right? Like, I never met Hassan before, but just being in this space, even though it's virtual, and listening to everybody's comments, and not just listening, but feeling how they're processing this stuff, helped me to hear myself speak and consider different things, which is, for me, is part of the power of this process.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks everybody. A couple of things you said, Eric. You said about feeling lost. They say one never rises so high as when one does not know where one is going. All right. And then you talked about that sense of why are you here? Why, when nobody else looks like you? I remember asking myself that question often at Pacifica. And I remember a friend of mine, wow, this was when this is around when I first started Alchemy, around 2004. Remember, he's sitting in my dining room, Smitty. And I said somebody, because I had Michael Mead there, or somebody else. It was something, and I was like, wow. I said, man, I'm running with the big dogs. And the Smitty said, you know what that means? I said, nah. He said, that means you a big dog too. All right. And I just thought about that a couple weeks ago, because I'm always questioning myself, always, doubting myself. Uh, Also, wow, another quote you was thinking when you said, wow, you look around and nobody looks like you. They say, if heaven is a place where only the innocent go, yet the one who stands before you is guilty, then where are you? Yeah, that's kind of the flip side of it.
Say that again. Sorry.
They said, and this is kind of the flip side of what Eric was saying, but they say, if heaven is a place where only the innocent go, yet the one who stands before you is guilty, then where are you? It's like a couple weeks ago, I was somewhere. I was somewhere, and I'm like, what are all these people doing here on a Tuesday afternoon or whatever? And I'm like, shit, I'm standing here with them. Okay. So, 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 so when we thinking about casting judgment on somebody, yeah. So here again, if heaven is a place where only the innocent go, yet the one who stands before you is guilty, then where are you? Yeah.
So, the interesting thing about when you first asked that question, um, um, different to Eric, I think, but comes to the same vein, is why are so many of you people in the way?
What, say that again, Jeff?
Why are so many of you people in the way?
Wow.
Mm.
Wow.
And I know how it sounds different from what you're talking about, Eric and Dunia. And I don't know, I have to think about whether or not that comes from this, is the same thing, just recontextualized in a sort of, I don't, it is, so when you're saying something of the light of hue, in those rooms, Eric, my view is they're in the way.
Mm.
I should be here, but uh, if I were the dictator, it'd be like, okay, there's going to be a pruning because a lot of you are just performing.
Mhm.
So it's an interesting. It's really, I had to think about that.
So, again, asking for the audience, something occurs to me here, and I know we're getting ready to turn the corner and wrap up here. And this was great, Kwame. I'd never been through this process at all.
Hey, you ain't seen shit yet.
Well, we've got a couple more
But
episodes we're
but
going to
thanks, man.
put out
Thanks,
there.
man.
But no,
Thanks, brother.
this is
Thanks,
a good
brother.
this is a good
Thank you.
introduction, and I look
Thank you.
forward to
Thank
seeing
Are we
more.
going to be able to edit that out? I'm sorry. Oh,
No, we're gonna let Kwame be Kwame.
Yeah, right on.
Let Kwame be Kwame. But that's a discussion we'll have later on.
Okay.
We'll have that offline. But the question occurs to me as a person who has a long background in leadership development, facilitation training, working with groups, working with leaders, working with corporations, small businesses, things like that, and also academia. The biggest challenge I can see throughout this process is ego. So, how do we remove the ego? How does the myth work? Speaking as an audience member, how does the myth work to remove our egos? I mean, I think I saw an example of it in the follow-up questions, and all you did was ask 2 follow-up questions to the myth that you gave us. How does this process help us remove our egos and get out of our own ways?
Um, Great question. Hey, that's just the first part of the myth. I got about 10 more questions just for that first part. All right, just for that first part. Great question. Wow, great question. It might not. It might not. Okay. All right. Uh, but yeah, it might not. Hey, son. But it certainly it is one of the one of the one of the outlining objectives of the method is for you to get rid of your ego. Okay. The one thing that you find, one of the first things I found out was going to get my PhD was how little I knew. How little I knew. Um, and I remember Dr. Whitaker was like, it's like two people were arguing about something, and they pulled out this dictionary to find out information. They said, "Wow, I didn't know that." Oh, no, they pulled out this book. I didn't know that, and they said, "Wow, I read a little bit more. I didn't know that either." Read a little bit more. Said, "Wow, I didn't know that either." He said that was on the first page. All right. So hopefully through this method, you come to find out, how little you know by listening to others. So not everybody is going to do that, but the method is definitely designed for you to have an open mind. To have an open mind. Wow. One of the first things we start off with is by saying how important it is to have an open mind, because only the open mind can contain the secrets of the universe. They say a child who leaves home a child who never leaves home believes his mom is the best cook. All right. So wow, that's one of the first things we talk about in the beginning. So it's telling you, in essence, to get rid of your ego. All right. And then with Jung, that whole piece on individuation, bringing all aspects of your psyche into one, is accepting your dark side, your shadow. Okay, so wow, that is a great question, and I wonder if we did an evaluation, how many people would say that they did get rid of at least part of their ego, because you come to find out that, man, how little you really know. Okay, wow, that's a great question.
So do you think ego is something we need to get rid of?
Well, no, okay. You need to get. It's going how we define an ego. I think if you definitely need to keep portions of it to move on in this world. You know, you definitely gotta, but just stop thinking or believing that you know every damn thing.
The
Okay.
arrogance.
Yeah, you got to have that empty cup mind. All right. You know, if you got that cup of tea and you keep, I can't remember if this is Zen or whatever, and you keep pouring that tea into the cup, it's just going to overflow. So you have to have an empty cup mind. But no, you definitely got to have, keep parts of it. And I think, wow, that's what, it's all about, is about finding that balance, finding the balance, what parts you need to keep and what parts you need to let go. A lot of common themes in myth, and then, like I say, if it's a common theme in myth, chances are it's a common theme in life. Uh, you have to pack up and leave, so you're packing belongings, into your bag. But the more you pack into that bag, and you don't know where you're going, you don't know where you're heading, okay? And so you packing all these belongings into that bag, but what you got to realize, the more you pack in that bag, that heavy it's gonna be to carry. So what do you put in the bag, and what do you leave at home? And part of that is gonna have to be your ego, but yeah. But you're gonna have to take part with you to be able to withstand this world, especially now. We living in mythic times right now.
Probably, or everybody, because Dunia and Eric, you took the facilitator training. One of the things that I found or continue to struggle with in terms of understanding a path forward in terms of facilitating a group is somebody like Kwame will say something and my mind starts to churn it. And I'm no longer I'm like gone, like, what does that mean? How does that impact me? And I'm not asking you whether or not you feel the same way. I guess I'm sort of the complexity or the depth of alchemy is, for me, still like this amazing thing that I'm trying to contend with. And it comes in different places, like the whole thing about ego, or the whole or and I'm not being very clear, but I'm trying to say, is this a consideration when you were thinking about facilitating, either of you? I know, Hassan, you didn't take it, but Dunia or Eric had this.
I mean, I'll put my 2 thoughts into this, I guess, or 2 cents into this. I think this is what I meant, Hassan, about when you're in the group, whether you like it or not, you are going to size yourself up to the responses of other members of the circle. And so you're naturally wired to be and to do and respond in a particular way. In the midst of that, you have to show up as yourself. And if you're not showing up as your authentic self, like deep down, you kind of know. But what I think, what I love about this is that it all matters. It all matters because everyone is displaying a facet of me and different points of my, Dunia as a complete person. There are moments where I'm super shy, and there are other moments where I might surprise you. I'm very outspoken and front and center. And it's a matter of tapping into my authentic voice. And this is why this is so difficult to pinpoint, Jeff, because I think it's about that authentic voice. Who is going to show up and answer that question? Because chances are that we recently did a community circle, and man, I think question one, someone started with such a deep answer, I was derailed. I was like, I can't go there. We just started. What do you mean that we want to talk about that? No.
How
And I
dare
was the
you?
last one to go in the circle, and I had maybe 12 people that to shield me from my answer. My heart was saying, be honest. I could not. Like, I just didn't want to go there. We just started. I don't want to feel bad. I don't want this to hurt. I want this to be different. But I had to kind of settle into the reality that, yeah, something is bothering me. And you just gave me permission to share that with others. And so I think that, you contend with yourself. And I think it's important for someone to, some people get very philosophical and therapeutic. And a lot of people want to analyze you and go into things that, okay, I don't know that that's going to help you figure yourself out. That's
Right.
why we're here. But it takes a while before that process sinks in and you start seeking for yourself. Because I think we are hardwired to give the right answer, to be the stellar student, to show up and show off in a little, in little and big ways. This tells you not important, and you get the message. I think by the second go around, you begin to realize, oh God, what did I just get myself into? It doesn't seem to matter that I gave the perfect answer.
Yeah, Eric was talking about this too.
So I think that that's just something that is, so to your point, Jeff, I kind of welcome that. And the sooner it comes out, the sooner you begin to really kind of realize, okay, then I have to show up differently as a facilitator because I want you to go a little deeper. Okay, that was too much too fast. I have to temper that because everyone else has to catch up. So I think it does allow you to, but going back to what Kwame say, you have to be good with self before you can,
Right.
be okay with taking others to those places that may or may not be appealing at that moment. I don't know, Eric, if you have or want to add more to
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Dunya, thanks. And Eric, please don't lose your thought. Thanks, Dunya. And then Jeff, thanks for the question. Something you said, well, a couple things. You didn't use the word comparison, but that's what you were alluding to. They say comparisons are never justified, but you only find justification through comparisons. All right. And then you talked about, it's not about you. It's not about you. Then the irony of it is, it's not about you, but the whole thing is really about you. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Thanks, Eric.
Um, I, I find that for me, having to be very present, even if I have a million and one things going on in my head, that I really have to focus on being present. And I'm just thinking about the kids at George Jackson that we work with, because kids read you, and you can read, well, at least me, I can read them reading me. Unlike some adults, it's hard kids, you can see them reading you. And those kids will bring up certain things in a circle, and even just work with Kwame, they'll make a comment that totally derails what the questions were, and having to be present while stuff is working in you. Like, I'm like, oh my God, that kid said something. Man, I'm thinking about my dad and blah, blah, blah. But I got to keep this thing kind of on track. But this kid just said something about some dumb. And you feel as though it's like, we need to go into that. And it's like you having to, at least for me, recognizing that it is about me, while at the same time it's about a lot more than me. And having to hold those multiple spaces, it's not something anybody off the street can just come in and be like, okay, I'm gonna do a group and da 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 da, because it's a lot of different things going on at one time, and you have to be very open. At least me, I had to be very open and recognize like this is my plan, or this is what I think, but I had to be cognizant of how is this moving. Are people starting to analyze other people, like Dunia was saying, and try to therapize other people and not looking at themselves? And I'll close by saying this is why this is marketing. I'm going to market here. Being in a facilitator training program with Alchemy is so vital, because it helps you to understand the dynamics of being a facilitator in a process like this. That you can't just have a myth and a bunch of questions and think that shit's gonna go smoothly. It's not that easy, but it is so valuable. And for me, it helps me as I'm watching other people being impacted by the work that we're doing. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it takes a lot to be a facilitator, because I'm dealing with my stuff, and I'm also recognizing there's a lot of, Jeff said, exploring your humanity while exploring the humanity of others. Now write that down, Jeff. And
Notable,
that's
quotable.
no, I wrote that because yeah, I wrote that down, Jeff. And being a facilitator, that's like, that's what makes this shit work.
That shit has clearly gone viral. So, Kwame, we've got 30 seconds basically to sort of wrap. Final thought would be your final thought. And then also plug for episode 2 coming very soon.
Wow, man, that's putting me on the spot, man. It's your show, man. It's your show. You end it, man. Or Hassan got that voice, man. One of y'all end it, man. Don't put that on me. And then what I was saying, Dunia, what I was saying, it's not about you, but it is about you. I wasn't talking about from a facilitator perspective. I was talking about from a, participant. Yeah, man. Hey, man, I ain't closing this, man.
Okay. So
Too much pressure, brother. You got me over here sweating, man. I'm looking for my towel.
Okay. This is. Are you sure about letting talent be the talent? I'm not really clear on it.
I think we've got a good hour of the talent being the talent. I think we've justified.
Okay.
I think we've justified everything else that has happened. I think we're good.
This is a very condensed version of the kinds of explorations that alchemy can take you into, and I'm eager for the next episode, and I want to thank you all for your amazing participation, and so thoughtful and so so talented. And I'm trying to let the talent be the talent. And so you guys are all amazing, and I'm really one of the things, Eric, in the next episode is talking about the idea of spiritual journey, right?
Spiritual quest.
I figured I'd get him off by misquoting it. Folks, if you're listening to this There's more to come. And thank you for joining us.